I'll talk a little bit about the history of the site, and we'll try and be very disciplined. I really feel very sorry for people to be the last speakers and watch people go over their time. So we're focused on keeping to our 15 minutes to talk about what is a great a story for us. As developers, we really fall in love with our buildings, and we at Clarett have done 9 high-rise buildings here in New York City. This is really my favorite, and I live in this building, having had the choice to live in any of our other buildings. But the thing that really attracted us immediately to the site, we moved our offices to this neighborhood and really fell in love with the neighborhood itself and the interesting architecture around it. And the Church of the Transfiguration on 29th Street between Madison and 5th was built in 1849. So it's one of the oldest and most treasured landmarks in the city of New York. And the development story is really the partnership that we created in the merged zoning lot with the church. This was the church parish house, which was a 3-story structure, which was not landmarked. I don't remember exactly when it was built, but it was not landmarked. And what we did ultimately was to combine 3 lots, the church itself and the parish house, and we bought another piece of property on 30th Street and then combined them so that the entire zoning lot is almost 26,000 square feet, and the residential tower itself the site is 7,600 square feet, and the tower is essentially 4,580 square feet throughout its 55 stories. Carol asked me, it's a 10 FAR. It's in the equivalent of an R6 zoning. It was as of right. There's no height limit in this neighborhood, which greatly influenced our ability. We actually didn't, I'll let Sylvan talk about that later. It's not as tall as we had originally planned. We actually thought we could go taller. It's not, because it's a landmark, we actually thought long and hard about the nave of the church is in this location, and one of the things we try to do as developers is to try and make the site itself and the floor plate a lot more usable and give us ultimate flexibility. And we thought long and hard about cantilevering over this church because you couldn't really see it. I mean, this is a beautiful piece, but you couldn't see it from the street. And so we spent a lot of time thinking about how to do that and whether we should do that. In the end, we opted for as of right and chose to build around it so that the site has we did a landmark preservation plan, and the church was, the church takes back the first 4 floors of the residential tower and is entranced from the church itself. So it's, as of right, 258,000 square feet of gross space, 4,500 square feet floors. We have 139 units. Our residential units begin on the 6th floor. The 5th floor has a gym and building amenities, and the 4 floors below that. The building itself today is 90% sold and occupied, so we've luckily skated through what we hope is the worst of this recession in reasonably good shape. And the critical element from an economic point of view, and I think I'm not sure it's the only, but it's certainly in this economy, it's an interesting joint venture concept. The church does share in profits over a base case, so we're kind of hoping the last 10 units that we don't give everything back and not give any more money to the church, but over a certain base level per square foot, they get an additional payment in addition to the cash land payment, the cash that we paid them. From a timing point of view, the broker, Chaim Katzip, I don't know if he's in the audience or not, will tell you this was a 20-year deal. He began thinking about this deal 15 or 20 years ago. It did take us a year to get to contract with the church. Ultimately, the issue with dealing with the church is that they have to have total consensus. We have a very small management decision process in our company, and so that's really one of the timing issues in dealing with a not-for-profit church. Is a developer has to have a great deal of patience. we as a development company don't ever start construction without knowing exactly what we're going to build and what it's going to cost us. So we do very complete plans, and for us the design time between going from contract closing to starting of construction is a 9 to a 12-month process. This we did in about a year. A critical date for us then, as those of you involved in the city in the last couple of years, is the arduous process of the building department. So we can make a lot of different timelines, and we can look at the date we get a demo permit or the date we actually get a new building permit. So from the day we got a new building permit to our first TCO was 25 months, and it was a total of an additional 13 months to get our final TCO. One of the more critical from a development point of view that I learned about this, about tall, slender buildings that I had not really appreciated, was that the critical time from us from a sales point of view and a marketing point of view is actually keyed to the elevator. And we were really used to delivering buildings in 14 months. Did a building with Ishmael, I think we built 30 stories in 14 months. So the issue of when we could, it's a condo and it's sales, and there are not a lot of people that are as comfortable going up in an outside hoist up 50 floors, and especially in the wintertime, and with the slender building, the competition for the hoist and getting the materials on the floor is a serious issue. So it was from the new building permit to getting an inside elevator was 23 months. That is something that I wished I had really appreciated more. I'm not sure it would have changed our decision process a whole lot, but it is something we will definitely think about in the future. The slenderness, the impact, the development decisions that were influenced by the shape and the size of this building relate primarily to our layout decisions, and coupled with our observations and our analysis that for us and for this location we were dealing with a younger demographic, so we wanted to do smaller apartments, despite the fact that larger apartments sold for a higher square foot price, and still relatively do. We knew that we had a more expanded universe. I think I've taken up most of my time here. So the technology, which Sylvan will talk about more, definitely influenced and in some ways impacted our decisions on layouts. The decision that we made was because of its location and because of the lack of other things around it and the openness and expansiveness of the views, we decided early on that we wanted every apartment to have its living room have a western view and the sunset. And we felt that that was really important, and that because we had a little less flexibility in terms of sizes of apartments and shapes, and we felt that we were looking at a price point, that we wanted to keep apartments at a certain price point, that we had to make choices about where the space was going to be put. So we opted for smaller bedrooms because we felt that people would, in this kind of a building with these kinds of spectacular views, would more prefer to have it in their living space and their entertainment space. And the other thing which we could come back to in the question and answer period that was different than any other buildings is the small and slenderness size impacts your use of public spaces. We've always opted as developers to create outdoor public space, although outdoor public space on the 50th floor is not as usable to a lot of other people. This height does tend to limit that. So let me introduce Frank to talk about the building itself.